Welcome to Exit Poll Left. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of Exit Poll Left. I'm your host, Jenny Floyd.
And I'm your co-host, Crystal Figueroa. It's been 2 episodes already?
Yeah, I know. In like less than a week. We're getting it. So, we're just going to hop into it today. We've got some concerning things that are happening across the United States outside of the pandemic. And the one that's most heavily on my mind right now is definitely what we're seeing take place in Portland.
Yeah.
We are seeing unmarked
vehicles.
We are seeing unidentified federal agents come into Portland. Mm-hmm. They are carrying out, they're trying to disperse protesters. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, they're using tear gas and rubber bullets and batons. I saw a video today where they actually attacked a Navy vet, a 53-year-old Navy vet, approached them in hopes of having a rational conversation with the actions that they were taking against the residents of the city. And they beat him and pepper sprayed him and broke his hand in multiple places, and now he has to have surgery and pins put in. And so, it's, what are they doing there, first off? Mm-hmm. So it seems that the federal government is saying that they are there to protect federal property.
Property over people, again.
Yeah, property over people. Not only that, but the things that we've seen happen in Portland against, federal government property has been, minimal.
Yeah, and Portland doesn't want them there.
No, Portland doesn't want them there at all.
So it's not like, the city saying, hey, we're drowning in riots and we need your help.
Please help us.
Yeah. They didn't ask for it.
No.
So they just literally took it upon themselves, like, hey, go to this place and arrest as many people as you can. And it's just, it's very scary because they are protesting. Protesting is the First Amendment right? Yep. Now I get people are going to say, well, what about the riots? What about this? What about that? All right. Well, we've came to a conclusion last episode, if you guys didn't tune in, was that riots don't happen just because.
Yeah. They don't happen in a vacuum, A, and B,
they're not done by the protesters.
No, I mean, just speaking from my own personal experience, I attended a protest here in Asheville, and we were out there peacefully for hours.
Right.
And we had been told earlier on in the day that there were going to be counter protesters coming.
And that you would know when to leave.
Well, and in my rational mind, I thought that it was going to be like an organized counter protest.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, what happened was that they came in, they infiltrated our group, and they wreaked havoc. They started shooting fireworks at police. They actually shot one into the crowd. And that's when, it hit the fan. The cops started to retaliate using tear gas and rubber bullets.
Yeah.
And we were all down in front of the main police station in downtown Asheville. Mm-hmm. And once everybody started to disperse, because the air was seriously so thick with tear gas that if you didn't have a gas mask, it was a bad sight. So everybody started to disperse. And once we got into the streets of downtown, that's when we started to notice the broken windows. And that wasn't us. There were hundreds of us, and we were all congregated in a single area. And then, so to me, it was very clear that these were outside agitators. Right. The people that were arrested, there was one gentleman that was arrested from Georgia. He was a white guy out of Georgia. He was arrested for shooting off the fireworks. So we know that there are outside agitators that are coming into these protests. I wouldn't doubt that there's agent provocateurs there.
We saw it. We've seen it in other places.
And those are just pretty much police officers that are sent in to stir people up and give the police department a reason to disperse the crowd.
Right.
So Yeah, I mean, this is a scary thing, and I've seen a lot of people highly disturbed
Right.
by not only the presence of the federal agents in there, how they're handling protesters, the fact that neither the city nor the state of Washington want them there,
Mm-hmm.
which is also going against precedent where in the past we've seen cities ask federal agencies for help, and that's not what we're seeing.
No. He's just taking it up. He's just taking it, in his own hands and says, well, I'm going to be the grand savior here.
Well, it's Law and Order.
Exactly.
Right? That it's him and William Barr. And
by him, we mean Donald Trump.
Yeah, by him, we mean Donald Trump. And it's this, we already know that he has an authoritarian streak in him. And I think that he sees this as an opportunity to galvanize his base and also to instill fear, which will
let's talk about the fact that his base is all about Second Amendment rights.
Right?
Yeah. Like, let's just
to protect them from government tyranny.
To protect them against government. Yeah. I was just looking at a video from Now This, which Now This is a, pretty liberal, media site on Facebook. And there was this Republican that actually came out and he said all libertarians are against government interference. And all for protection of the individual's rights.
And that there's a lot of libertarians in the Republican Party.
And that's what he was saying. He said, you know what? Us as Republicans, we have to stand up against this tyranny. Yeah. He literally called it tyranny. But they won't
because libtards. You know what I mean? Like that's literally what it is.
Right. And I want people to understand that you and me, at least, there might be some out there, that are really extreme or whatever, but at where it stands, you guys, and we're both pretty liberal,
Oh yeah.
But where it stands is the fact that we want to protect our rights. Any rights, all of our rights, regardless of who you are. Nobody should be fearful to go out and use their First Amendment right to protest because the government's going to retaliate in some way. I mean, for goodness sakes, we had a literally armed militia go into a government building protesting. Right? And this was not even peaceful protest, what they call it.
Yeah.
No. I would honestly say this was an act of force. I mean, you already know if this would have been coming up into some other Republicans, office, and it was there.
Oh, we don't even have, it would have been a different story.
Let's actually talk about when it happened. Okay. Let's talk about when the Black Panthers, right, went into, what was it? The Senate or the House in California armed. I mean, the guns weren't loaded.
Yeah.
But they had
a show.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happened the next day? the next day, literally the next time that they were in session, not only were they met up with resistance and all the force of the law and SWAT came out, but the very next time that they were in session, they passed a gun protection bill.
Of course they did.
Right?
Because it was Black people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Black people that weren't even fully armed,
they
right?
forget that people outside of the Republican Party can arm themselves.
I mean,
you know what I mean? But, and that is, there's a big hypocrisy there as far as, we need these guns to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government.
And here we have it.
Yeah, and they're rah-rah. Go Trump.
Yeah. I've seen posts, for goodness sakes, where they're like, well, they shouldn't have been out there protesting in the first place.
That is their right. That is their constitutional right of expression. And no.
I mean, for goodness sakes, I wasn't, honestly, all those unmaskers, the people that didn't want to get masked or whatever they call themselves now. Trump's base, I don't know. Point is, I don't like their message, but I will stand against it. I will stand in favor of their rights.
Sure, if any of their rights were being violated.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The thing is that asking somebody to wear a mask.
It was not. But as far as protesting against
sure.
this,
of course. I mean, Can we have a good laugh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all needed it. It was
But
in the middle of the pandemic.
would we support the government coming in and silencing their voice and shutting down their First Amendment right to assembly?
No.
Hell no.
No.
And that's one thing, is that this is not the first time something like this has happened as far as shutting protests down. And that's really kind of the nitty-gritty that I wanted to get in today, because it's easy right now to point to Trump and Barr, our Attorney General, as the boogeymen in the room, because they're the ones that are carrying out these actions.
Which they shouldn't.
No. But this is a result of the past 3 administrations.
And we finally have someone that has the gall to abuse it.
Exactly. 100%. And this is, so, and what I mean by that is what he is able to do, and the constitutionality of what is taking place in Portland is, there's a very vigorous debate going on about this. And unfortunately, I think that it will be found that the actions of these agents is constitutional. Right. And it was made to be constitutional through the Patriot Act and through the National Defense Authorization Act, especially the one signed by Barack Obama in 2012. So with the Patriot Act specifically, Section 802 redefined how domestic terrorism, redefined domestic terrorism. Right. And it really kind of opened it up to more of an interpretation. And you don't have to have links to foreign groups. There doesn't need to be a known affiliation with a terroristic group.
Which the KKK should be.
It should be. Group. But we could get into a discussion of all kinds of things regarding that. But so the Patriot Act and how we define terrorism, especially domestic terrorism, and also the Patriot Act, established the Department of Homeland Security, which worked with the U.S. Marshals in Portland.
Yep.
So there's one leverage. Yep. And then the other leverage is really the National Defense Authorization Act in 2012, which was signed by Barack Obama. He was a big proponent of it. It was very worrying. I remember when it passed, people are like, there's gonna come a time where we're gonna have a president that is going to abuse this power.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Because that act basically made the detention of a person suspected of domestic terrorism indefinite.
They don't even have, and a lot of it actually has to do with immigration.
Right.
So what happened under that act was that the powers to indefinitely detain an American citizen was granted to almost all agencies within the government, including DHS, which runs ICE. So, and ICE doesn't need to think you're a terrorist to detain you. DHS doesn't need to think that you're a terrorist to detain you.
They just need to think that you're an illegal.
That they can use that excuse for whatever. And, I was talking to my mom about it today, and she is of Italian descent. And I said, they could roll up on you and be like, you look too Italian.
Yep.
And scoop you up. And then guess what? Good luck,
finding
with
your way
due
back.
process.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Right.
So this is really, we're seeing the tipping point here of a lot of policies that have been passed in the past 3 administrations that weakened our constitutional rights. And really, we could even go back to, I think it was 1953, where it was established that immigration officers had a 100-mile border to, like a 100-mile area around any physical U.S. border. So, Canada, Mexico, and the oceans. There is a 100-mile area in which they can enforce immigration law.
Yeah. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because if you've opened any book on immigration law,
it's so open to interpretation. So we really need to start having conversations about this, because Donald Trump is not going to be the only president that will abuse his power. No. Please believe me. And this is being used as a chilling effect on people exercising their First Amendment rights, which, and the bad thing about it is that this could take years to play out in court.
I mean, and it's not only that, because we're just seeing the beginnings of it. What if we actually in the future have this? I mean, Donald Trump has tendencies of being a tyrannical, leader.
Yeah.
What if we actually have one that has planned this all his life and says, this is the way that I can do this?
Well, if Donald Trump gets reelected, we may just have to worry about that.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
Because he's not going to be worried about reelection.
No.
I think that it would escalate considerably.
And if you think, oh, well, they were just protesting, they were just exercising their First Amendment rights, and that nothing's going to happen to me if I stay home. Oh, I beg your pardon?
Yeah. No, sorry. And again, this comes back to, President Obama and the policies that he passed, regarding surveillance of U.S. citizens. Mm-hmm. This comes back to the FISA court. It's all linked together because
this comes back to policing wanting to stop anything before it even starts, even if there's a suspicion.
Yeah. And please believe that, and I don't want to become a fearmonger. I don't want to become be worried. Just be mindful.
Just understand
that your communication over the internet is already monitored.
Yeah. 100%.
And so that is also terrifying because you can be in the privacy of your own home. You do not have to be physically present at a gathering for them to pull an excuse and come and arrest you.
Mm-hmm. And there's been many cases by the FBI. Actually, one of these most famous cases, I forget his name, that he was tried, and then after 20 years in federal prison, he was found not guilty. That the FBI actually paid someone or they pay people to actually go out and find terrorists.
Oh, they entrap them.
Yes. And this was one of the most, and if I could just think of his name, this was one of the most famous cases where this man, this paid employee from the FBI called him and started, making him say different things. And they created a terror plot. Yeah. Yeah.
So then they could call him a terrorist.
Yeah. And he was not given due process. His first attorney failed miserably because she didn't have the clearance for higher up security level stuff like that. And it was just a tragedy. Yeah. And the fact that this could happen to anyone, we are in such it's not difficult. We are in such different times right now with the pandemic. That we are in such vulnerable times with the pandemic. Yeah. That anything that we could say could possibly be interpreted as going against the government.
That's terrifying.
It is, because even this podcast, even this podcast, because, we have a president that does not believe in masks, that does not believe in tests, that does not believe in COVID for the longest time, right? So if we go against that belief, we are essentially going against the government. If we go against police brutality, we are going against the government. If we go against immigration and putting children in cages, we are going against the government. And that,
if you're against Donald Trump, if you are at this point, if it is being framed that if you are against Donald Trump, then you are anti-America. Mm-hmm. Think about that just for a second. This country has seen now 45 presidents, and I'm sure some of them have had power trips. Mm-hmm. I'm sure. But one of the very foundations of our nation is that we do not have a king. Mm-hmm. We don't have a king. And he wants to be king really bad. And he is going to fill, as he has filled his cabinet with yes men. He has filled his cabinet with people who are just as power hungry as he is.
Mm-hmm.
The scary thing is they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-mm.
Right? He kind of flounders around and tries to turn everything into a campaign rally. He has filled his cabinet with extremely intelligent people.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with them. I think that they are a danger to our society and the fabrics of our very democracy, but that doesn't mean they're stupid.
Mm-mm.
They're very smart.
Oh,
and that's the scary part.
Yeah. That, Donald Trump is like an empty shell.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump is their literal, like they said it before, these people, politicians are just the face. No. Donald Trump is the face. Donald Trump is the face to rally the crowds. Behind him, he has very powerful, and I'm not just talking about political, I'm talking money.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking billions of money. I think I just got a report that they're about to drop like $3 billion, the Republicans, in campaign ads.
To
$3 billion. If that number is correct. Let me make sure.
And then we have
2.5 million.
And
2.5 million.
Oh,
right?
2.5 million. Okay.
Million. But still, 2.5 million in campaign ads. Just right now.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's, like you said, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of people that are backing him.
Yeah.
Because they know if we keep this man here in this position, he'll do whatever the hell we want him to do. And
I don't know. See, that's the thing is I don't know if they can control him like that.
I mean, honestly, I just feel like the way that they're controlling him is the way that they're saying, like, listen, you're going to put your face on here. We're going to stamp your face on this. They're just feeding into his ego.
Well, fair enough. I agree with that. Yeah.
Creating this world that, hey, Donnie,
but yeah,
you're the creator of this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Look
I
at
see
everything
where
that
you're
you've done.
coming from. Yeah.
So they're feeding into this ego that he has that is, insatiable. That it will be never will be filled. And they can do whatever the hell they want him to do. Because like we said, Betsy DeVos.
True.
You know, she gets paid through private education. You know, we have a person in the head of the EPA that doesn't even believe in EPA regulation. Like it's
yeah, I mean it's a mess. It's a mess. And I think that
this is just the beginning.
Worse. Yeah, and I think that what's truly kind of frightening for me is how is Donald Trump going to react in November if he were to lose?
Oh yeah. We've had this discussion before, and I mean, he's come out publicly that he says, we will see.
Yeah, I mean,
he said, no, I will see.
He's already, like, questioning the legitimacy of the election, which is hilarious.
I mean, and like I said, we're in a vulnerable situation with the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are part of our largest voting bloc are also part of our vulnerable population that cannot expose themselves. So that's why we see here in North Carolina that the governor has relaxed some of the things that are needed to vote by mail. Granted, it's not enough, but still, he's relaxed at least something.
Yeah, it's something.
And so I truly believe that that's what they're going to latch on to. I do voter outreach, in my full-time job. And one of the biggest things that we get from Republicans, Trump supporters, are, I don't want the Democrats to steal my ballot. That is literally the most common response that I receive.
And it's the exact opposite.
It is. Like, the fact of the matter is that the Republicans have made more fraud through absentee ballots.
Yeah.
Than any other people, including illegals that don't vote.
That's something to take into consideration, right? The fact that fraud is possible, right? That's definitely something to take into consideration.
But not through the Democratic side.
So, well, I mean, just regardless, right? That's about the safety of our elections, and there should be things put in place to safeguard that.
Right.
However, voting by mail is pretty safe.
And I mean, there's a tracking now.
It's safe enough for the president, right? It's safe enough for how many of our armed forces. Yep. It's safe enough for Ivanka Trump. So please listen, please. And I'm saying this to Democrats, I'm saying this to Republicans, I'm saying this to liberals, I'm saying this to Trump Republicans, everybody, listen to me. The Republican Party has for decades rolled out tactics to suppress the vote because it's been shown statistically that when voter turnout is low, they win. So they do whatever needs to be done, like voter ID, like, running all this propaganda against vote by mail, which God knows how many of our elected officials who are Republican vote by mail. So understand that this is a partisan tactic to keep people from voting,
and
go ahead. It's just about as anti-American as you can
Exactly.
get.
That's what I was going to say. And if you are a proud American, like some of us claim to be, then we should be doing everything in our power to protect our vote. Because at the end of the day, that is the power that we as Americans have. I mean, if I feel proud saying, if I don't like this president, I can exercise my right to vote. And if I'm not the only one, and there's a multitude of people that don't feel the same way, we'll vote him out, right? We're not talking about the Electoral College. We're talking about the public. And that gives us a source of security. But this election has definitely made me so scared for our democracy because I don't feel that secure anymore.
No.
Especially with what happened up in Kentucky, that they closed 95% of the polling sites, and then they wanted to close by 6 when there was already hundreds of people in line. That's scary.
It's terrifying because what other leverage of accountability do we have? Right? And we hear it over and over and over and over and over and over again. You don't like it, vote him out. You don't like it, vote him out.
What if you can't?
That is our mechanism of accountability in this country. And what if you can't?
Exactly. What if you can't?
What do we do then?
Do we overthrow the government?
I mean, I really would rather not be having this conversation.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I would much rather be safe with my vote in November. And again, we go back to this being a vulnerable situation.
But how are we supposed to navigate having our right to vote stripped from us in a very conniving, deceiving way where it's not in black and white, right? It's not in black and white. How is it legal for a state to shut down 95% of its polling locations? That's a question that we need to ask.
Yeah. And again, I go back to this is a vulnerable situation.
Yeah.
They're going to use COVID whenever it's convenient. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be, November is going to be a nightmare. I wouldn't doubt. I mean, we are just now seeing some results out of New York. It's been half a month since their primary. And this is going to be on a national scale. It's going to be a disaster. I wouldn't doubt if it takes a good month and a half.
Oh, maybe more.
To get the results from November back. And that is going to be the scary time. Because it's going to be so up in the air.
I mean, I think he's putting his plan into motion already.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think we are starting to see him roll it out now. And William Barr came out and said this today, so has the acting director of DHS. They've come out and said, look, Portland's a test city. This is a test ground. We're working out the kinks here.
And not to mention the ICE citizen school that
which is all.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you want to
Yeah, I mean, there. For all of those that don't know, this is another, and this is where I think that this is a plan that they have, because it's impossible for everything to be happening so out of coincidence.
Sure.
There's an ICE. What is it? Citizen. How do they name it?
It's the ICE Citizen Academy.
That's what it is. ICE Citizen Academy, which sounds scary enough.
Well, or flowery, however you want. Oh, education.
So what they're trying to sell it as is they're trying to basically, inform the common person what it's about, what ICE does, how they keep humanity and dignity within the people that they detain, and might even give you a tour of an ICE detention center.
Yeah, and talk about the stellar medical treatment that they give to ICE detainees.
Right. So, this is what they're saying that it's about.
Yeah.
But then there's a little excerpt, there's a little part at the end of it that said, oh, we might even train you in the use of a firearm, and we might even train you how to detain people, and we might even train you, basic self-defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
Which makes me think it's not just for education.
No, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. And that's another thing, again, we're seeing the federal government come into a city. In this case, it's Chicago.
Where there's a large population of Latinos.
Yeah. And guess who doesn't want them there?
Chicago.
The city of Chicago. Their amazing mayor, who I absolutely adore, has come out and pretty much said, we don't want vigilantes in our city. And that's exactly what this Citizens Academy is going to produce. And yeah, I was scrolling on the ICE website today, and I read their press release regarding the Citizens Academy, and it was very innocent. It just sounded so, we just want to teach people. We want to show them
how ICE works.
Yeah, we want to show them how we function, how we uphold the dignity of ICE detainees. We want to debunk some myths that go on about us. Which we've had our own interaction with ICE a wonderful ICE agent in Henderson County who was full of crap, along with the sheriff there, and that's Henderson County, North Carolina, where they still participate in a program called 287G, which is a county partnership with ICE. So, I mean, and he was full of crap then. They're full of crap.
Yeah. This is not going to be an education.
No.
This is going to be a fully trained people that are going to go out into the streets and are going to try to detain as many illegals as you can.
Oh,
and
you're brown.
Right.
Yeah.
I should have put my shirt on.
Illegal.
I should have put my shirt, do I look illegal to you?
Yeah.
Right? Because make no mistake, people that go out there and tan, don't tan too much.
Right.
Because you might need to, have your passport ready to hand it out to
Wear
people.
your papers.
Again,
I hate that we're having to have conversations
tell me about it.
that are legitimately
terrifying.
They're terrifying, and it's like, I don't want to be alarmist. I don't want to say that we've got brown shirts in Portland. I don't want to say that we're going to have, this citizens brigade or militia, whatever you want to call it, going around asking brown people for their freaking papers. I don't want to be having these conversations. But this is where we are, America. This is where we are. These are the conversations that need to be had.
And I mean, we can't be scared of having them now, because if we don't talk about it, then what the hell are we going to do when they come knocking on our door? Because God forbid that the house that you're in right now was what was in the past owned by a name that sounds brown.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to come knocking on your door too. Okay.
And again, not even that. It's, we have to remember that our interactions on the internet can be traced. They can spy on us. That's just how it is. And so if they think that you are acting a certain way, or
they can come knocking on your door,
you exhibit certain,
come knocking on your door.
Yeah, they very well may come knock on your door,
or
and
just
that
take you out of your car.
Is terrifying, and it's exhausting, and we're already an anxious country because of this damn pandemic.
Listen, my parents are from Mexico, and we see in Mexico all the time. The most famous one was the 43 students that disappeared in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that happens on a daily basis. There's people looking for their children, their mothers, their fathers, even now. Every protest, people, every single protest that happened in Mexico, there is at least 10 people disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
By the police.
And it happens in South America, too.
And I'm asking you guys now, in all certainty, and with like literally my heart on my sleeves, do you want that to happen here? Do you want to be searching for your family members and not ever be able to find them because the police take them and they hold them in God knows where? And
let's not forget about the existence of black sites.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not, we are talking about federal agencies. Do not think that they don't have locations to take people that they've detained.
That are deemed terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Or dissenters.
Mm-hmm.
Or, So, again, we're seeing this whole web that was born out of 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're seeing right now.
And we have to, and I'm sorry to say it, we have to dismantle it.
You have to.
Everyone, and during 9/11, and I'm not saying that it wasn't bad, it was horrible.
Oh, it was horrific.
I can't even imagine, all those people that were lost. But we are losing more American lives due to that now.
Well, I mean, just look at the war on terror.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, look how many soldiers we've lost over, you know what I mean? Like, at what point is enough?
I mean, I don't want to sound, like you said, like an alarmist, and I don't want to be like one of those people that are like, smaller government, but it's
just smart government.
Exactly.
Yeah. Moral government.
I mean, when will we respect the rights of all? When?
Never.
It's ridiculous.
Never. We will not.
This is not even about parties anymore.
No, this is beyond partisanship.
Because I have a colleague of mine, a friend of mine that I went to Gardner Webb with. He's a libertarian. And he speaks against police brutality like you have no idea. He's like, why the hell do we have police not working for us? That's right, because they were never meant to work for us. Why the hell do we have brown shirts in Portland?
Yeah.
Because they were never meant to protect us.
No, they're there to protect property.
And that's what I mean. This is not about parties because he is a libertarian.
Yeah.
And yet here we are agreeing on these issues that are considered progressive.
Yeah.
It's not about parties.
No.
It's about moral dignity.
Well, and it's about, again, the Constitution.
Right.
And
that upholds, we should feel protected. And I'm sorry, but I don't feel protected right now.
Well, because we have a living document, right? The Constitution is, in all reality, ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is that it can bend to the will of those in power.
Mm.
So what traditionally would be deemed unconstitutional is no longer unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have people, and I don't want to demonize scholars by any means, but they go in there, they pick it apart, they find a loophole, they find an empty space that they can fill,
mm-hmm.
and it's worked and changed, and here we are. And so...
And it shouldn't be like that, right? My way of seeing things, and maybe I'm not alone in this, and I hope to God I'm not alone in this, but if a law infringes upon the rights of one person, that's one person too much.
Mm.
Like, I'm not talking about inconvenience, anti-maskers. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual, like, you can't protest. Like, you can't, go in and just practice one religion. I'm talking about those type of fundamental rights.
Well, and we saw that here in North Carolina, in Graham County,
mm-hmm.
where they tried to make protesting illegal.
Right.
They would let, right-wing armed protesters come out. But if you wanted to have a protest in the name of Black Lives Matter,
you couldn't.
They tried to make it illegal to assemble. And thankfully, we have organizations like the ACLU who was, able to come in, they filed a lawsuit, and they got it squashed within the week. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
What?
Right.
You
Right.
cannot say who can and cannot protest based on your own personal political affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
And this is law enforcement.
Yep. Law enforcement that shouldn't even be there to begin with.
What? So, there's big questions that need to be asked. And the main thing is that they're not answered hastily.
No.
They're not answered by a knee-jerk reaction. They're not, oh, well, if we get rid of Donald Trump, then this will never be an issue again.
No. Something that AOC, and I think I said in the last episode, said that is really, really alarming is the fact that she said he can be voted out. He can be impeached. For all I know, he can die. Right? But the damage that he's created is going to take decades.
Yeah, to undo.
Decades.
Yes. And that's if we have somebody who wants to fix it. Right? Here we have Joe Biden coming in on the tails of Barack Obama, who deported the highest number of immigrants.
400,000.
Signed the NDAA, weakened our constitutional rights, and here's his partner in crime running on the Democratic ticket. So it's going to take more than decades because we're still going to be held back another 4 years, even if Donald Trump loses.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we get a Democratic president in there, he is Barack Obama light.
Because again, this isn't about parties.
No. This is
not about
wielding
parties.
Power.
We are both Democrat.
Yes.
But I can assure you that the Democrats have failed this country. They have failed us.
Yeah.
We cannot sit here and act like the Democratic Party is perfect.
Oh, hell no.
It's not. It needs to change. The fact that I just said this, our thoughts of progressive, as far as abolish the police, as far as defund the police, literally lines up with some of my friends that are libertarians. And my thoughts are progressive for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like, how is that? What?
Well, and again, that's, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I remember registering to vote in my government class in my senior year, and I didn't even honestly know what the difference between a Democrat and a Republican was. I just knew George Bush was a Republican and I didn't like him. So that must make me a Democrat, and sure as hell enough. But, and I went a long time not understanding. I went a really long time living kind of on the outskirts of our political debate, the environment, all of this. I was very disconnected. But once I started to get involved, really, honestly, truly involved, and tried my best to look at things from an objective perspective, because at that point I wasn't like a die-hard Democrat. I wasn't ingrained in the party.
And I don't consider you a diehard Democrat now.
No, and because I'm not. I disagree with them just as much as I agree with them. It's just that my values align more with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, 100%.
Far more than the Republican Party.
And I think that's where a lot of people are.
I think that's where the vast majority of, especially people our age.
Yeah. And that's where I'm getting at, right? That when I say the Democratic Party has failed us, it's because they have failed to evolve into the party of the people.
100%.
They have failed to continue to grasp those values.
Yeah.
They still want to stay in the era of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
And even Bill Clinton.
And we're not there yet anymore, people. Like Bill Clinton, for God's sakes, put in the bar, which essentially entrapped 11 million people in the United States, because he put in place a bar that if you were here more than 3 months undocumented, then you were banned from the United States for at least 5 years. And if you were here for more than 6 months undocumented, you were banned from the United States for 10 years. So what did these people do? They had to stay.
Yeah, or just stayed.
Yeah, they had to stay
illegally because you can't leave.
Right. Before Bill Clinton, they would go back and come freely. freely, which made actually our economy better, right?
No.
Because, I mean, we had migration instead of immigration.
Yeah.
And now these 11 million people had to stay for fear. So thanks to Bill Clinton, now we have the situation on undocumented immigrants here in the United States that have been here for more than 10 years, that are law-abiding citizens, and that still don't have documents.
But a wall's going to work, right?
Right.
A wall's going to work? No. No.
Again, it's not about parties,
No.
y'all. It's not about parties. It's the fact that both parties have failed our country.
Yeah.
Both of them.
And how do we move forward? I mean, and that, again, look at the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mhm.
Who was president when Black Lives Matter started?
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. It happened under not only a Democratic president, a black Democratic president who had a black attorney general.
Mhm.
Like, but people want to act like Donald Trump is the only problem here. No. Again, like we said last episode,
Donald
it's the
Trump-
system.
Right. Donald Trump is abusing.
Yes.
No, not abusing. Taking advantage
Yeah.
of the situation. That's what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump, and we knew this was going to happen. You and I saw it coming for years now. Why? Because this was all building.
I was railing against the NDAA
Right.
in 2012.
This was all building. These laws were being made, one on top of the other. People were talking about it. Whenever 9/11, the Patriot Act happened, they were saying, what the hell? What do you mean surveillance on our phones? What do you mean that you're gonna like, spy on us? Oh, it's just in case something bad happens.
Yeah, we gotta protect you.
Just in case. We have to protect you.
Yeah. Well, it's just like that. I don't know if you remember, but the FBI had a slogan, if you see something, say something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So just encouraging Americans to, like,
Snitch on each other.
not only snitch on each other, but be paranoid of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because anyone can be a terrorist.
What a form of control.
Oh,
What a form of
100%.
control.
100%.
So, and that's what this is all about. That's what we're seeing right now happen in Portland. That's what they're hoping to expand in other cities, in which I have to say, if you don't know, we are based in Asheville, North Carolina. The current chief of staff for President Trump is Mark Meadows, who was our representative.
Mm-hmm.
And
who endorsed one of the candidates that was running to replace him.
Oh, yeah, Linda Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also come out in vocal support of what is taking place in Portland and the deployment of federal agents to that city. And Asheville is a liberal city.
Mm-hmm.
We are a very politically active city.
Mm-hmm.
And we are already on Mark Meadows' radar.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not doubt if we see some form of this come to Asheville.
Right. I don't, and honestly, I'm waiting for it. That's why there's so many protests, like, so many organizations organizing protests, crazy, happening in secret. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't happen out on Facebook.
No.
It doesn't happen. I'm not going to say.
It happens on encrypted networks.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. It happens on very encrypted networks where, the organization, the key part of that organization is, it cannot be shown like to public until it actually comes out of date and there's flyers made and stuff like that. And they do that for their own safety. I mean, how crazy that you have to guard yourself from your government.
Is it though?
No, it's not crazy, but
is it? But again, it goes
to
against everything that we've been ingrained to believe.
Exactly, here in the United States. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you asked the question, what do we do from here? Honestly, Jenny, I don't know what we're going to do from here. We need a radical change. I don't think Joe Biden is that.
Joe Biden is the opposite of that.
And I truly believe, call me an optimistic. I truly believe people change and people, evolve as time happens. And I hope he has. But I don't see it.
But he's already come out and flat out said that nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I don't see it.
So, I mean, and that's the thing. Again, if we are going to have to see how November goes. Because, like I said, our mechanism of accountability is our vote. That is the only way that we have outside of rebellion.
Mhm.
That's it.
And
So what are we going to do if we continue down the path that we're already on, which is voter suppression? And it gets to the point where they make it almost impossible to cast a vote. What are we to do then?
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I'm all for, going out on the streets and overthrow.
Well, we're going to have to formulate something, but
And if you guys, if they're spying on us, I mean.
like I said last episode, we can go out into the streets all we want, but what's going to happen at the end of that?
Yeah, there has to be an organization.
You know what I mean? There has to be serious discussion. And do I think that needs to take place on an encrypted network?
100%.
Yes. Do I think that we should really honestly start having hard conversations with ourselves and our families and our fellow citizens regarding if November is as bumpy as I think it's going to be? 100%.
In the middle of a pandemic, nonetheless.
We need to, one beautiful thing about this country is that we are born out of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
We are born out of upending bad policy.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we are born from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one thing that I really want to make clear, that for some reason we are very sheltered and we think that we're immune to this kind of turbulence.
I think more than anything, we think that our government is built to protect us.
It's built to protect itself.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that's what
bureaucracy.
And that's what I think, even when we were in government class, AP government and all that, I think since the beginning of our education, we are taught that the government is built to protect us.
Yes.
The
To
Bill,
uphold the
the
Constitution.
Bill of Rights sounds so nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful document.
But do you remember how long it took to put it in there?
Yeah, I don't.
So, I mean,
That's the thing.
That's the thing, exactly.
The government is there to protect the government. The government is a machine. That its sole responsibility is to keep going.
Keep chugging along.
That is it.
Yeah.
So
Because if the government was built to protect us, we wouldn't be seeing everything that's happening in Portland. We wouldn't need Black Lives Matter.
we wouldn't need Black Lives Matter to begin with.
Yeah, we wouldn't need to go out to the street to begin with.
We wouldn't see Congress have an approval rating lower than freaking cockroaches.
Right.
Literally, cockroaches. We wouldn't. But again, it comes back to, we talk about Black Lives Matter and we talk about immigration and we talk about this us versus them mentality. Well, the government has made it to where we're propagandized to believe that it's us versus them. When really it's us versus them. And so that's the way that we really need to kind of work on our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And
We have to change the narrative.
100%, we have to change the narrative and we have to start talking about how uniting as an American people can overcome so many of the ills of our society. Because the last thing that they want us to do
Is
unite. That is terrifying to them.
100%.
And we see it everywhere, right, in life. God forbid you work at a company and you talk about forming a union.
You might get fired.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like, unity is terrifying to those in power because it lessens their power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
they have to have a tight grip on you in order to control you. Keep that in mind.
100%. Or they have to loosen the grip that you have with others.
Mm-hmm.
And again, so yeah, and I'm sure that we'll talk about this in future episodes. I'm sure that, we'll see how this whole thing kind of unfolds, but get ready to have some difficult conversations.
Yeah, and it's conversations that are obviously overdue. Conversations that we put in the back burner because we, quote, didn't need them. Conversations that we were trying to have because we saw it. The problem here is, Jenny, that us as brown people and black people, we saw it coming because we were the people first attacked. Remember that. I have to be prepared with a license all the time because God forbid someone pulls me over or talks to me and asks me for my documentation and I don't have it. There's been cases where American citizens have been arrested and detained by ICE.
Oh yeah.
And
then
have
shipped off to like another state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have traveled around the United States with ICE. Families don't know where they are. They finally realize that this person is an American citizen and oops, we're sorry, we made a mistake.
And so you think they'll teach that in the Citizens Academy?
Right? Like
we scoop up American citizens.
Yeah, just because they look illegal.
Yeah, because they look illegal.
So, make no mistake, the first people that this was tried on was the blacks by local authorities, right? Police officers. Brown people by immigration. So now that they're coming for you, now that they're coming for the people that look like you, Jenny.
Yep.
That's why we start having these conversations.
How's that saying go? I was not a Jew, so I did not stand up.
Yeah. And now they're coming for me and there's no one to stand up for me.
Yeah.
So.
But the good thing is that there's millions of us
yes.
to stand up.
So and we're right now, I'm telling you, we were the guinea pigs. Mm. We started, they started this because of us, because they're terrified of us knowing our true power.
Yeah.
And I've said it before. They have taken away our freedoms. They have taken away our land. But they will never take away the centuries and centuries of fighting and resilience that run through our veins.
Yeah.
We were born to fight for our rights.
And now we just need to catch up with you.
Exactly.
And we got some work to do.
Yeah, because everyone has been living in this, and by everyone I mean a lot of white people have been living in this bubble. You're not included because you've always been very open-minded. But they have been living in this bubble where we're protected. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh my God, that was terrible. What happened to Trayvon Martin?
Or, really, we even look at other countries.
Right.
And
we need the need to evangelize them. And we need the need to go and send ministries over there to help them and pat them on the back.
Don't get me started on that. But yeah, and also what I was going to say on that note is that we look at other countries and we look at the things that their government does, or we look at coups and we're like, that could never happen here.
No,
that could never happen here. What happened in Venezuela could never happen here. Well, it could because our government is the one that perpetuated the coup.
Exactly.
But we've grown up in this bubble of protection since World War II.
Right.
Really, the bombing of Pearl Harbor outside of 9/11 was really, and Pearl Harbor was really an act of war, right? It was a country. It wasn't some guys, who moved here and learned how to fly planes. It was backed by a country.
Right.
With Air Force
and just
Navy.
As patriotic as we stood at that time. We have to stand right now.
But look at the aftermath of that.
Oh,
that's what's scary. Is that moment was so marketed and it was so spun that then we started attacking Muslim Americans.
Right.
So we can look at that as that's a time we've come together. But the end product of that unity was the opposite of what it should. It was more fear. It was more fear and it was more hate.
Right.
And it led to policies that now we have federal troops disappearing people in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
With the promise that it will help it happen elsewhere. So.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. We just they're just so terrified, right? Because Black Lives Matter, nonetheless, got
international protests.
International protests, right? There was one in Mexico about police brutality as well.
There's been one in Paris, or multiple places in France and Berlin, and a lot of places.
It's been international. So that's what they're terrified of. That this movement finally, for once, has put people together in the same room.
And they will do whatever they can
to shut them up.
Yep. To shut it down.
Yeah, to shut it down and shut up the people that are speaking about it. And that's why I'm asking you guys not to. Because this Citizens Academy is terrifying for us. You should be terrified as well. Because no, not just because you know us, not just because, we're your neighbors or whatever that may be, but because if you are not in agreement with this government, you are next.
You're targeted. Yeah, 100%.
Regardless of what you look like.
Yeah. And on that note of fighting and being resilient, I want to talk about John Lewis for just a minute. As has been said in the media, we lost a titan. We lost a giant. We lost a civil rights leader, somebody who was beaten almost to death, who marched with Martin Luther King Jr., who served his community for decades. And his loss is a great loss, but also should light a fire in our belly, knowing that we have some shoes to fill and a fight to continue. I am so glad that he was able to live long enough to see Black Lives Matter painted on the streets of Washington, D.C. And I hope that he found pride in that. And I hope that we are smart enough to know that we have an obligation to carry on his legacy. And in the same vein, news broke just the other day that Asheville City Council has voted for reparations for the Black community. Made international news. All the details have not been ironed out. Obviously, it's a pretty new resolution. There will be no direct payments to Black families, which is something that some activists and advocates are having an issue with, but instead they say that they are going to inject money into the Black community here, into the arts, into education, into Black businesses, which I hope has a long-term effect. And the hope of the city is that this helps Black families build generational wealth, which is something that has been stripped from them from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's a step in the right direction. We will definitely be keeping an eye on how this plays out and what kind of investments are being made and the timeline of this, because there's a good chance that this is just to make pretty headlines. Mm-hmm. And so, the work is not done. The advocacy is not done. The fight is not done. We need to be vocal. More than that, we need to stand united.
Yeah, and it really saddens me, but at the same time, it creates it makes my inner warrior come out, right? Whenever I found out of Mr. Lewis's death, because the civil rights movement had everything in its power to become everything, and it was cut short by the death of Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. And,
And what was Martin Luther King's last call to action? For the poor people of this country to rise up and stand united.
And exactly.
Regardless of race.
Exactly. And it hits home a lot with me because I work with an organization now, a nonprofit organization. I think you could follow us on Facebook and stuff like that. It's called Poder en Sí. And we're very new. And we have this mentality of chingonas, which is basically like badasses. Mm-hmm. That's what we call each other. Because there needs to be more people like that. There needs to be more people that just speak up whenever something's wrong and aren't afraid to stand up whenever something's wrong. And I'm not just talking about you're wrong, like, oh, that was not okay. I'm talking about, in the time when the civil rights were happening, there was lynchings happening right now in this day and age, we have people dying in hospitals due to lack of health care.
We also have lynchings.
We do. We do have lynchings. We have children dying at the hands of federal government. Mm-hmm. We have children being lost at the hands of the federal government.
We have white vigilantes, attacking people of color.
Yeah. And there's just so much work to be done. And it's a weird where it's weird what I don't know how to explain it, because I'm filled with so much sadness knowing that he's gone, but at the same time, it really fires me up to say, you left us this torch, and we're not going to let it die.
No, we've got to carry it on.
And like, even whenever we were running, it felt, even in the aftermath of our race, we created these waves that cannot be undone.
No.
And that's what I mean. Even if you don't succeed, as long as you create these waves, as long as you get people talking, because now we have even people in the Democratic Party reaching out to us like, hey, can you do this? Using us as their token.
I mean, you were appointed to...
Yes.
Governor's Board on Inclusion.
Yeah, the Commission on Inclusion, and they've been reaching out to us to tell us, to ask us, hey, what can we do better? That's just one step in the right direction. I am Catholic, so I pray every day that I can have the strength to carry on and to be able to help lift that torch and continue the good fight.
We can't be afraid to get our hands dirty.
Yep. What did he say? Good trouble?
Yeah. Get into good trouble.
And that's what I constantly push people, motivate people to do. We cannot afford one more day in silence. We cannot afford one more day of sitting down and watching it happen before our eyes. We cannot afford to just be looking at it through a TV or through a computer, because one day it's going to be you. And that day is coming real soon.
We hope not.
And
there's a possibility.
Yeah. If we don't act now, if we don't stand up now, and I mean, there's politicians in there that are running that are good, Mo Davis, Cal Cunningham, our governor, those are good people. But we can't just leave it up to them.
And we can't just assume that they're good.
Right.
Because they have a D next to their name.
We can't.
We can't afford to do that.
No. We have to hold them accountable every step of the way.
And we have to push them. As...
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do for Black, Indigenous people of color? What are they going to do to help the poor in our community? What are they going to do to create reparations? Because I don't know if you know, but reparations in cash happen to the Jews. Reparations in cash, although not very good, are happening, and we need more, to the Native Americans. So where's everyone else? Because my family is from Mexico. My family owned land. My ancestors owned land in the United States.
What and we lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you understand.
Where my family was given land.
Right. So
my dad's family was just like, hey, here's a piece of Virginia. Have at it.
Yeah.
Will you farm this?
Just do it.
Yeah.
And then they used my people to go and help, harvest. But how are we going to fix this? I'll tell you how. By realizing that without generational wealth, you can't do much.
You really can't. It gives people a lot of leverage, and I was talking,
not just money leverage. I mean,
societal leverage.
And in your own person, you grow up to believe that you actually rule the world, right?
Or not even that. You can build something.
Right. It gives you some self-confidence.
Yeah.
That's the word.
It gives you space.
Right.
It gives you a place.
Even if people say, well, my family lost it long ago, even if your family lost it, it is still generational.
Yeah, it's still impacting you.
Yes, you still have that privilege that it was given to you. Whenever you don't, you live in this constant, I call it a poor mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You constantly live in this poor mentality that nothing is attainable. You can never reach that height.
Yeah.
You can never go that extra mile. You can never reach what your counterparts reach. It's this poor mentality that is embedded in you at the onset of your life.
Yeah. And here's again the thing, right? That comes back to, well, it didn't happen to me, right? It didn't happen to me. So, well, it's gonna happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
The way that our economic system is working, it was brown people. It was black people. Now it's going to be white people. And then what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Then you're going to want to call for policy change. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to want to call for reparations for, you know, your loss of generational wealth. And we look at states like West Virginia who've just been, you know, devastated by economic depression. And, you know, at what point are they going to rise up and start asking, hey, it was your policy that caused my family to lose its wealth.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, oh yeah, reparations are cool.
Mm-hmm.
We want, but no. I mean, you're black, you're brown. No, sorry. Get over it.
Mm-mm. And you know, that's what I say about, this is why this topic is really hard for me, because I don't know how to explain to people that if your neighbor is hurting, so should you.
Well, you are, whether you realize it or not.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, you are, whether it's going to be financially.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be like on a societal base, or whether it's going to be on the basis of your simple shared humanity. You just need to recognize that hurt.
Because at what point, right? At what point does my pain not matter, right? I was reading the book Just Mercy, and he was one of the authors that created that museum in Alabama with all the lynchings that
the names, yeah.
So he was saying on one of his last chapters, if we could just have mercy. Mm. If we could just have mercy on each other, then we would realize that the death penalty probably does more harm than it does good. Mm-hmm. Then we would realize that there is a clear injustice, even if that person was in the wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a state-sponsored killing.
Right.
You know, how hypocritical can you get?
And if we can just...
You're going to kill somebody for killing somebody.
Right. And if we can just expand that into our own personal life and just have some mercy, like it has been given unto us, because I'm here just by luck of the draw. Mm-hmm. Right? If we rationalize everything, right? I think I said in the last episode that my dad was taken out of our truck and everything and that sort of thing. And at some point, one officer had to have a little bit of mercy for this man and said, hey, let me look into his background. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, they realized
who they had. Or who they didn't have, which is who they wanted him to be.
So if at one point, even for just a split second, we can just have mercy, a lot of things can be different.
100%.
A lot of things. And I'm not asking you to be Mother Teresa of Calcutta. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to, if you see a protester on the street, have a little bit of mercy and try to understand why they're out there. Mm-hmm. If you see a person what if we see a person committing a crime? Try to just understand for at least a second and at least let them live, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that committing a crime shouldn't be an automatic death sentence.
No.
The last time I checked, we had a justice system. It wasn't just a single person in charge of being the judge, jury, and executioner. Mm-hmm. But I think the only fault in your argument about mercy is asking a machine to be merciful. Mm-hmm. So the government is a machine. It will never be merciful because machines don't understand what mercy is.
And that's why I'm putting it back to the people.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's gotta be on
It's gotta
us.
be us.
Yeah.
We can't just sit there and just be like, oh, that's terrible, what's going on. No. We have to take it upon ourselves.
We have to be proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you said, and we said it before, the system was not created for us.
No.
So we have to take it, if we want it to change, we have to change it.
And
Brick by brick.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I think that we'll end with a simple question, which is what are you going to do to change it?
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.